Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this legislation today because we have a very simple question that lies before us. Is the 21st century going to be an American century or a Chinese century? We all know the history of the 20th century. As we left the 20th century, America stood ascendant, that shining city on the hill. And now as we go into the 21st century, the question needs to be asked again. Whose century will this be? Because the Chinese seek hegemony. And one of the ways in which they do it is to control the minerals that are traded around the world. So we stand here today, and this is one of the small decision points that we're going to make. It's no different than right across from northern Minnesota, there's a natural gas plant that's being held up by the Biden administration and a few small select group of local people to prevent a natural gas-fired plant from being built. Making one of those small decisions, are we going to be dependent on other countries? Because if we are dependent, then we will not be that shining city on a hill. So I think about the goals that this administration has stated. They've talked about American manufacturing, and I hear it from both sides. We must have American manufacturing. How are you going to have American manufacturing if you don't produce some of the minerals and the metals that come out of the ground? How are you going to have American manufacturing if we don't produce some of that in America? I hear that this administration wants to make sure that there's union labor. There's a project labor agreement that is in place to be able to build this mine. This is going to create union jobs, one of the goals of this administration. And certainly they've talked about electrification. We want to electrify our vehicle fleet, as well as getting rid of natural gas-fired stoves. How are you going to get there if you don't have the minerals that produce those devices that are going to be able to provide that? Because remember, in every Toyota Prius, there's 60 pounds of copper. 60 pounds of copper. How are you going to electrify the vehicle fleet without producing minerals right here in America? And I think back to January 20th of 2021 and the very first action that this administration took in saying they're going to shut down Keystone XL, making it very clear we're going to be energy dependent once again. What immediately happened to the price of oil? It went from $60 a barrel. Within a couple months, it was up to $100 a barrel, enriching the despot, Vladimir Putin, who has used it to wage war in Eastern Europe. That's what happens when we do not utilize our natural resources, whether it's our forest resources, our mineral resources, or our oil and natural gas resources. We end up being dependent on other countries. I hear consistently from the other side that I'm all for mining, but then I pose the question to them, where? Where do you support new mines? It's easy to say, well, a mine's been there for 100 years and to be able to support it and the union jobs that oftentimes come with it. But where do you support new mining in America? The opposing side's witness could not answer that question in our hearing. And I still don't hear an answer from them yet. Where do you support mining in America if you support mining? Twin Metals has went through an exhaustive process, and they've been proving that they can do this. Let them finish the process here of the rigorous environmental permitting that we have, not just at the federal level, but at the state level. Because living in Minnesota's neighboring state, Wisconsin, I know how rigorous the state of Minnesota's mining regulations are. So we have a choice before us today. Are we going to allow dirty mining around the world to be able to provide our natural resources in America? Or are we going to respect the health of people, which we have the best health standards of anyone in the world? We have the best safety standards. Go to the Congo and see the safety standards that are there with 8-year-olds mining in the Congo. And we have the highest and best environmental standards. If you want workers to be safe, if you want them to be healthy, if you want to have the highest environmental standards, then you will support American. You will support American mining. I would just close with this. In 1960, John F. Kennedy went to my district in Hurley, Wisconsin, to the Montreal mine, thousands of feet down in that mine. He said to those miners, "You did as much to win World War II as I did on PT 109. Are we going to have a 21st century that's an American century or a Chinese century?" I yield back.